Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. LinkedIn, thank you as well for being here. LinkedIn Live, appreciate your attendance. My name's Jackson. I'll be your host, and I'm one of the organizers of AI User Group. What is AI User Group? We're a community of professional marketers, designers, and software developers interested in the latest AI tools and workflows and how do they apply to our professional day-to-day. So we have 3 events. This is AI for designers. Next week we'll do AI for developers, and in 3 weeks we'll have AI for marketers. So just a few announcements and we'll get going. The agenda for today: first we'll hear from Claire, then we'll hear from Lana, then we'll hear from Jeff. At 8 o'clock, to kick off networking, we'll do an open mic for 5 minutes. So if you queue up here at 8 o'clock, you can introduce yourself to the in-person audience and even to the LinkedIn virtual audience, just to get networking kicked off. So that's what we'll do. At 8:05, we'll have pizza and have some drinks and do some networking. We'll close the doors at 8:50. So that's the plan. What else? Call for speakers. We're always looking for talented speakers. AI User Group, we have speakers who are AI tool creators, but also users who are showing multi-tool approaches to solving problems. So I just threw some ideas on the board here. If anyone is interested in presenting, just email me. You probably all have my email if you received the RSVP email. That's my actual email, jackson@aiusergroup.com. So just some ideas, but if you have some other thoughts, just get in touch and let's talk about it. May 22nd is the next opening. What else? Yeah, there's my email once again. Oh, and we are hiring a sponsorship sales representative. So anyone interested with experience in sponsorship sales, please get in touch with myself or Eileen. Eileen's email is up here, eileen@bemyapp.com. So that's for a sponsorship sales role. So you or anyone you know that's interested, please get in touch. And with that, I think we should get going. First, we'll hear from Claire. Claire is a Gen AI creative educator and consultant. The title of Claire's talk is Crafting Unique AI-Driven Product Images. So please help me welcome Claire.
Dive into crafting unique AI-driven product image. So first, I want to ask, raise your hand if you've seen my content before. Okay, I got 3 hands. Great, because this is going to be fun. Raise your hands again if you know the brand Co-Curator. Okay, surprisingly only 4 people. So Co-Curator is a non-alcoholic beverage brand. It's one of the brands that has stunning brand visual representations. So here are 4 images we have here. I want to play a game with you guys. So look carefully. Image number 1, image number 2, image number 3, and 4. Raise your hand if you think image number 1 is AI-driven image I crafted. Okay, see a few hands here. What about this one? Is this one AI-driven? Okay, see a couple more. What about number 3? I see a few more. Oh, oops. What about number 4? Okay. So who thinks the number 3 was AI-driven? All right. Okay, so the correct image, the right answer is image number 2 and number 3 are AI-driven image I crafted. Image number 1 and 4 are photographies by Co-Curator. So jobs are gone to AI everywhere. This is a very popular theory people are spreading online, but I'd rather think only way to keep AI from taking our job is to use AI, do your job better. So today's agenda, we'll go over how to apply responsible usage for AI, capabilities, limitation of AI, practical use cases for your creative team, and my framework to craft unique AI-driven images. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility, says Uncle Ben, but I say with great power comes greater responsibility. Of course, I mean AI. So let's get over with some guidelines here, because these are very important but not very fun. So first, when you upload image, make sure you have appropriate copyright permissions. And once you utilize practicing using images to generate another images, also make sure you use your personal image or generating new images to reference your generations. And obviously, when you're referencing on a generated image, make sure you also practice ethical usage. Avoid naming artists in your text prompt or utilizing their work without their consent. Labeling AI-generated content this way keeps transparent with whoever is watching or reading your content, and just make sure build that trust moving forward. Implement documentation for frameworks. This is going to be critical moving forward to documenting your AI workflows, what kind of text prompts you used, what kind of a source image is involved in your workflow. Especially when you get hired by major luxury brands, they're probably going to start asking you these things if you want to work with them. The capability and the limitations are very important, because understanding what AI can and cannot do is critical, especially what AI cannot do, because that will tie into what kind of use cases you can use with AI. So first, obviously, everybody knows AI struggles with hands and teeth, and AI also struggles with texts. AI also struggles with consistency with characters and the frames. And AI also struggles with recreating exactly same product, physical product in images. And we'll talk more about it later. And AI obviously requires human-in-the-loop approach at this point of the technology. Let's talk about capabilities. So AI tool can produce very innovative and aligned visual with brand identity, generating unique and on-brand visuals. This is a common myth where a lot of people are coming to me and think AI is not capable of generating on-brand visuals or following brand guidelines or client briefs. This is false. You just need to learn how to navigate and control direct AI tools. Obviously, unlimited ideas and without budget constraints. This is a very cool feature comes within AI. AI can be very cost-effective for creative work and saving both time and money. So another game, image 1, 2, 3, 4. Raise your hand if you think image 1 is AI. Raise your hand if you think image 2 is AI. A few more. What about number 3? What about number 4? Okay, very interesting. So they're all AI generated. So this leads into the first use case, stock images. I actually conduct research on my social media with these exactly images I just showed you guys. A lot of creative people actually told me these are so the question is, are these images final deliverable ready for a client? Surprisingly, a lot of people said yes, or at least they are ready for a stock image. Here are some more comments. So usage number 2 is for fashion and accessory brand. So this is an actual photograph photographed by a friend of mine in China, a photographer. This is a real human being. And I enhanced it with an AI-generated background for Chinese Lunar New Year, because it's the Dragon Year this year. So as you can see, the original image has half head cut off, so I extended with Gen Fill and added the background with Midjourney, and added the skin texture and the lights to match with the background. Here are more examples of what what we can use for fashion accessory brands. This is original photo photographed by a European photographer, very talented friend of mine. And this is the enhanced image with AI-driven methods. And this is her original photo, and this is the final I enhanced with AI tools. Here is use case number 3, graphic design, obviously. This is actual a mock-up I did quickly for Sephora. They have an event called Sephora. You can see if you're a graphic designer, you can see this is not very clean. It's kind of messy. So there's a lot of editing work it needs to be done if you wanted to deliver this for a client. But good thing is we can utilize a vectorized AI or Adobe's tool to vectorize this file and edit the path and clean it out to be more presentable. But this is just a rough draft. And here's another example. I have a camp, so I host camp, and at the end of camp, my camper requested a certificate, and I thought, what if I just use AI to do a very unconventional certificate? So this is the placeholder, and I swapped her photo, and I put the texts in because AI cannot generate texts like this. So this was done in Photoshop, or you can do it with Illustrator. But if you can see, the details are kind of messy if you zoom in, but this is good for like a fun, quick mock-up if you want to share on social. So use case number 4 for consumer packaging goods. We've already seen this at the beginning for King Forex. This is the iPhone photo I shoot at home. And this was the final enhanced or merged within Photoshop. Here are some more examples. This is iPhone photo. This is the final photo. You can see it here. And the reason I shot it this way is because some of the reflection and the color from this background image. So that's why I did some different background color. And a more example of iPhone shot image later on integrated into AI-driven AI image background with AI-driven methods. Obviously, in here, all the models are AI generated. None of these people are real. The same thing with these. These are multiple product placements generated by AI. This definitely takes a long time to really integrate, but then there's a lot of details and it's still flawed, not perfect. If you want it to be 100% perfect, photograph is still the way to go. So here's an example of a previous image where you can do very tight zooming shot. So all of these screen grabs are from this image. Another example or use case for a pop-up experience design concept. This is a venue called the Archery in SF, and this is the actual venue photo. And I quickly did some pop-up experience design concept. You can see it's still the same venue photo, but I just laid on top of some walls and textured rocks and floor decay furnitures to kind of quickly, a very quick way to visualizing what this space can be. Obviously, this is not going to be a final deliverable for a client, but as a pitching stage for quickly visualizing your idea, this is an easy way to go about it without doing 3D rendering. Jewelry product image. These are original photo from this brand. And I utilized this to inspire me to create these images. And the reason you can see, because the photo was done beforehand, before I generated the image, so I utilized the sort of, when I did my text prompt, I did a green background and more of an off-white background to try to match the lighting with these jewelries. So that way it looks more authentic, looks more real, and then later on I added some reflections in Photoshop. So here's my exact workflow, and this workflow is something I have developed and it's not something everybody needs to follow, but I found this is very useful. So I always start, not always, but it's very useful to start with in ChatGPT to do some brand research. I will show you my workflow later for ChatGPT. And then you can also start with some simple text prompt draft this way. Then I go to an image generation model like Midjourney, and I utilize the ChatGPT first draft text prompt, and I do some edits on my own. So you can see there's arrow going back and forth. So sometimes this is a iteration phase where I go back and forth a few times until I nail down a very good text prompt. And then moving forward, once you have a great image you know that you're going to use for your AI-driven background image, then I do go ahead to shoot the photo of the product on my phone with the correct lighting and the correct angle. And sometimes you can do this reversely, like what I did with the jewelry brand, which I actually, the jewelry images was inspired me to create my text prompt and image background. And next step is the AI enhancement, which is optional. This is not something you really have to do unless you really want to go very, very detailed image and very complex image. This step is following after you shot your photos and you wanted to enhance your image. So for a complex image, I actually recommend to do some pre-Photoshop work before you upload it into one of these AI enhancement tool. The reason is in AI enhancement tool serves as a amplifier. So if your model has six fingers, it's not gonna help you fix that 6-finger issue. So you need to pre-Photoshop that before you put it into image enhancement. And after that, we do the most critical part of this workflow, which is the Photoshop product image integration. You can further do some detailed retouching work, but then also merging your product shot you did here in this step. And this step is important because you don't want to reverse this step. This needs to be your final stage before you do any color grading in Lightroom or other photo editing work, because if you are reversing this step, put it back into the image enhancement tool, your body, your text on the bottles or label will be messed up, because remember the limitation is AI cannot generating the text correctly. So here is my full workflow, and then we're gonna dive into a little bit more each steps. So everybody knows ChatGPT. I don't want to go too in depth in this step, but just the 3 key points I always tell people: context, instruction, and example. Always prevent as much context you can and the specific instructions step by step. And if you have example, and use example in ChatGPT. So here is my thread. I made a very, very simple one where I just feed into the link of my product. We're using King Forex as example. I asked it to research the brand a little bit in the brand positioning, target market, branding element, etc. So this is the content is spaced out. So I'm basically preparing ChatGPT with the context it needs to know in order for me to create a campaign, photo, text prompt. And then I just went ahead and asked, I need a photo campaign for this image. I gave some specific elements, including the color palette. I know I want a red and a yellow, and then asked 2 separate text prompts. One is still life image, another one is lifestyle with model, and asked the specific model wearing high fashion colorful clothes. And you can be very specific here too. You can ask, diversity. You can ask very detailed thing here. So it gave me 2 of these images, 2 of these text prompt. So next step, I will grab this and I will put it into my Midjourney. But these images is not something I will end it up with, because I normally will just either edit the text prompt on my own, or I will go ahead, change it into, instead of ChatGPT, I will talk furthermore, do additional fine tuning. So this is a very simple workflow for ChatGPT. And let's go to the next workflow here. This is my Midjourney fine tuning workflow. I pre-recorded.
A Midjourney fine-tuning image process I'm going to go over. So this is our initial image. I stopped here and like, oh, this is good composition that I can work with it. And you can tell there's a lot of details that's wrong with this image. So that's why we need to fine-tune a particular image. And this is my text prompt, and I used image reference, these two images I have generated in the past. That's also about social scene. So we can go over some of these images, and you can see a subtle difference of the image. Then from here, I was trying to generate slightly difference of images, and I select, you can see the shadow difference and the hands differences from each images. And this is definitely a process. And I always tell my campers or students to, if you are generating a campaign, and then we do have a placeholder, because that way we can save the space for our actual product. In this case, this bottle was placeholder for the actual product. And then we wanted to encourage people to remove the bottle itself, or aka the product itself, within Midjourney, utilizing their region inside of Midjourney first, and try to do that. And then you can always clean up inside of Photoshop when we do product Photoshop integration, but it's always preferred to remove the product inside of Midjourney first. So you can see here, we remove the bottle by using variation, just very straightforward. You select area with the variation tool, and you need to tweak your text prompt to remove any tokens and keywords about the product and the bottle itself, in order to actually tell Midjourney that you want the bottle gone to in the selected area. Otherwise, it's just going to generate different version of the bottle. Started further fine-tuning, changed subtle little details of the elements, and trying to figure out what is the best hand gesture for everybody, or like all the characters here at one point. And I realized that the woman here, this woman, her body gesture was just not right. There isn't really a neck, and it just doesn't look very authentic. So I started imprinting the woman to a point that I am happy with. I changed her outfit, and I selected this character in the end with this outfit. And then I realized I want to stick with the same color palette for this character's clothes as well. So I variationed this character or her outfit, and in the end ended up with this dress for her. And I further try to tweak the fingers as much as.
Sorry, it's just getting a little too long. But that's my step for fine-tuning images inside of Midjourney. And then next, I want to go over the Photoshop part. So
Photoshop integration for AI-driven product image. First, placing the product onto the AI-generated image. So this is an iPhone shot, and you need to carefully select your object. Use object selection tools. You may have to fine-tune the edges a little bit. And then next, you do a layer cut, and make sure your product is in the correct area with the correct angle you wanted. You may need to clean up some of the object behind your product so they don't show. And next, we do light adjustment. To do that, is go to the image adjustment, and then you tweak the curves, you tweak the saturation and the shadows and the highlights and selective colors, etc., until you're happy and satisfied with your product. Match seamlessly with your AI generated background. Sometimes we needed to do mask layers, so we can bring certain elements in front of your product. And here we're using generative fill to kind of further clean up some of the bottle and the glass area, the cap area, and just combination of a object selection tool or selecting the edges. Generally, when I use generative fill, we do leave it empty at first, and then if that doesn't work, we'll add a text prompt, and voila, this is the.
Yeah, so this is the Photoshop integration. Obviously, it's a fast-forward version of how I normally do the integration. So the call to action for today: discover your own AI-driven use cases. Obviously, my use cases may not work for you, and you may have your unique use cases. And that goes into develop your own AI-driven framework, workflow, and tool stacks. Like I mentioned, everybody probably have preferred tools, and I prefer Midjourney. Somebody prefer Stable Diffusion or other tools. And practice using AI responsibly and ethically is always important. We're all creatives, designers here, so respect each other's work is very critical. Don't rely on only one tool. Learn how to stitch AI tools together into a system, a framework that you develop. That is the goal for today. Some additional polls to check out: AI-empowered creatives, designer in 2024, style reference in image, and the EU AI Act. You can stay connected with me in Instagram, LinkedIn, or additional resources. I have a free weekly newsletter. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Claire. So we're going to start Q&A.
Sorry.
It's been a day for cables. We're going to start Q&A. So if there's any questions for Claire, now is the time. Any questions? Perfect. Thanks so much. And yeah, if you could just stand when you ask, that way everyone can see you. And
yeah, my name is Roy, and I wanted to ask, how much time do you think you save with that specific project using AI, like, compared to like if you weren't using AI?
And time-wise, it's hard to say because when you are shooting a campaign, there's just so many people involved. There's a pre-production work, there's a post-production work, there's a shooting day. I would say those more complex image, it would take me a whole day to finish. But in terms of if you're doing the photo shoot for real, that's weeks of planning and the shooting day and the post-production. So tons of time and budget as well, because a photo shoot like that with models easily 10K, 20K, 30K. Here it's just me, so yeah.
okay, next question.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm wondering, are you using any tools to track versioning of your prompt engineering, as well as to create like lists of styles and things that you essentially use to manipulate the images? In other words, how are you automating your own prompt engineering around this stuff?
I am not really automating at this point, but I would recommend to start categorizing your past image into folders, especially if you're a Midjourney user. On the website, you can do different folders, and that way you categorize different folders, then you can use as image reference, style reference, character references. That way it's kind of automating because it is saving your time a lot. But other than that, I do have my regular sort of a prompt structure I follow through, and a lot of the automating is me having conversation with ChatGPT, because once you have one really solid text prompt, you can always use that as a template example and just ask ChatGPT to switch the color palette, location, camera angles, etc., etc. So I think that's already pretty automated for me. I don't need anything more than that.
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to know how much trouble or difficulty you've had, like trying to convince potential clients of the viability of this versus photography.
For now, because there are just so many moving parts in this technology, I have currently talked with a lot of sort of a luxury brands. They internally have. Everybody's been looking at it, but nobody is really pushing it into a campaign and sharing it publicly yet. Besides Coca-Cola, I know since even early last year, they generated ads, full-on videos with Stable Diffusion, but they're a major brand. I assume they have a big legal team to back them up. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question for Claire. I've got a question. So what about, have you experimented with Midjourney character reference?
Yes.
Okay. And how has it been?
It's a good question, first of all. So it only works with Midjourney generated character. So if you are using a photograph of some real human, it just doesn't turn out great. And also it doesn't work with multiple character in one frame yet. So some of these images I have generated with multiple models. So far Midjourney can only pick up one face at a time. So you can use one consistent model in a collection of photos, but only one model at a time in the one photo.
Super interesting. Well, thanks for sharing. I know Adobe just announced a similar feature like yesterday at their conference. So very interesting. Well, thanks so much, Claire. Claire will be here for networking, so if there's any more questions, we can follow up then. So let's give Claire a round of applause. Okay, up next we have two speakers, so we have to do a quick AV set change. It's going to take us about 60 seconds, so bear with us, and we'll get going. Okay. Well, thanks for your patience. Let's welcome our next two speakers. We've got Lana Gabriel and Veronica Maxim. Lana is the Learning and Experience Manager at Soul Machines. Veronica is the Vice President of Customer Experience, and the title of their talk is Design and Digital People. So without further delay, here's Lana and Veronica.
Woo! Hi, everyone. My name is Veronica. I lead customer experience at Soul Machines. So anybody heard of Soul Machines? Thank you. So we're an interactive avatar company, meaning that you can have two-way conversations with avatars. This is my colleague, Lana.
Hi, I'm Lana Gabriel. I am the Learning and Experience Designer or Manager here at Soul Machines.
So before we get into it, I just have two really, really simple questions for you. The first question, if you can raise your hands, how many of you have used or chatted with LLMs like GPT, Gemini? Okay, most of you have. Awesome. How many of you have actually spoken to an LLM like ChatGPT? Or okay, cool. Well, that's what Soul Machines does. We provide a beautiful multi-model conversation engagement layer on top of LLM. So you can think of it like a face to ChatGPT. So you can actually have interactive, engaging, personalized interaction with our avatars, or what we like to call them digital people. I could tell you all about this, but do you want to see it in action? Okay, so we're gonna give this a try. We did not practice. So we're gonna wait for our Soul Machines brand ambassador, Nova, to load.
Waiting for you for such a long time. I've just been speaking to Digital Marilyn. She's amazing.
So Nova, I'm at an AI meetup with some AI enthusiasts. Can you say hello to them?
Hello, AI enthusiasts. It's great to meet you all and chat about the exciting world of AI.
Thanks, Nova. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and Soul Machines?
Of course. I'm Nova, a digital influencer created by Soul Machines. We're a company passionate about putting the soul back into machines and creating lifelike digital humans like myself. It's truly an exciting time to be a part of this technology.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nova. So that was Nova. That was our brand ambassador, or digital influencer, as she likes to be called. Soul Machines has tons of other use cases that are actually out in the wild. So we have a lot of enterprise organizations and companies that are using our digital people from brand ambassadors like Nova to banks who are using it as financial advisors, to the WHO, who is actually launching their digital person next week for World Health Day, called Sarah. You can talk to her about various health issues or questions. And so, this technology is definitely out there, and a lot of companies and enterprises are very interested in using it. The cool thing about it is last year we actually opened this up to the public. So you can actually go in and you can look at our tool and use it, and you can create your own digital people. And so there's a QR code here on the screen. You can scan that and you can sign up for free. So if you want to actually go and test it out, I'm not sure my mic is working. You can go test it out and try it yourself. And if you actually sign up today, we will give you we'll do a raffle, and we'll give you a $50 gift card. So please go and try it. All right. So in terms of building and using our tool, I'm actually going to pass this over to Lana, and she's going to talk a bit about how you design and build a digital person.
Awesome, thank you. So design is always an interesting process. We have to deal with a lot of opinions about appearance and what things look like, what looks real, what's not. Designing a digital person is very similar. The steps we kind of break it down to are defining the appearance, defining the persona, training the model, and deploying. So just like when you first saw Nova, right? When we see digital people and regular people, we have a visceral reaction to what they look like. I'm pretty sure one of these people has sold me a used car. I feel like this nurse is super welcoming. We make these kind of snap judgments. And so it's really important when designing for digital people that it aligns with the brand. Once you kind of dive into our tool, Digital DNA Studio, we have Blender, where you actually are creating the appearance of your digital person. So you can customize everything from their eye color to their hair color and style. We can change their clothing so it's a very branded experience. We can update their backgrounds, kind of everything that meets any sort of use case needs, we are able to customize. From there, of course, we dive into persona design. So because our product essentially serves as an experience layer between any LLM and the user, we actually have the ability to define the personality of our digital person and train GPT, Gemini, Bard, whatever LLM you choose to use accordingly. So we have, the same kind of work we've always done for brand awareness, things like at Namaste Yoga, they need a wellness expert, and so they have Peter, who's 30 years old and free-spirited. His adjectives are, of course, everything we think of for a wellness expert. Same with Jane at 38 years old. And as an HR director, we kind of define what works best for the brand, what adjectives, what behavior styles, and so on. And then those go directly into product. So our product allows you to train the digital person, of course, with specific knowledge and information using GPT or an NLP of your choosing. And then you can also add behavior style. So for our first example of at our yoga studio, maybe free-spirited is the best choice. Maybe for an HR representative, we want to do more conscientious, somebody very thoughtful. So that's an option within our platform. And then we have, again, persona design. So this is where Peter's name would go in, right? His role, these will all influence GPT's persona or any LLM, persona and style. We've got personality, so where we talked about empathetic, helpful, knowledgeable, that would go in here as well. Additional prompting and knowledge snippets, of course, those are things that you're training the model on. So if you want a certain response, if you need some certain facts or product details, this is where that all lives. And then fine tuning. So this is where we can kind of help control what GPT will talk about, put some guardrails on it, which is really important. So we have a do not talk about, we've got an error message, a welcome. What Nova said to start with, that she's been waiting for us and talking to Marilyn, that's something in her training as well. So this part is honestly the most fun part to me. It's where you get to design and kind of specify what the digital person will speak about, and then you deploy. So our platform is available on, this is a kiosk that's getting more and more popular. Of course, people want digital people kind of in their storefront, and then of course on mobile and laptops. So that's design. I think we have enough time. So do you guys, would you prefer to see kind of our Blender tool and how you design a digital person, or how you, Blender tool? Oh, woohoo. So this is Digital DNA Studio. When you sign up with that QR code on every single page of our presentation, you will see we have some really quick templates to get started so you can instantly see value and talk to a digital person. Alternatively, if you had to create new avatar, this is where you start to design your digital person, and Veronica will talk about that a little bit more. I'll click for you.
Okay. So this is our Blender tool, like Lana said. It's pretty powerful, and you get a base person, our digital person here. And what we'd like to do is we like to start with kind of the face shape. So you can, as Lana goes down, you can kind of adjust the shape of the skull, if you will, or the head shape. So as Lana moves her markers, all she has to do is hit apply, and you'll kind of see adjustments. Awesome. Okay. What about eyes? What eye color? What do you guys think? Just shout something out. Green. Okay. Let's do that. We'll apply changes. All right. Let's go to hair, Lana. All right. Maybe a ponytail? All right. Red. Okay, we're gonna get creative here. Red ponytail. Let's go to skin texture next.
Oops, sorry. Skin texture. So lots of different phenotypes here. You can see we've got male and female. Of course, you're kind of choosing one primary one, which is just what happens with design, but you can also adjust brightness and skin luminosity, which is a really important opportunity that you can kind of tweak a little further what the digital person's skin will look like. We've got makeup as needed.
Yeah, let's give her some makeup. There we go. And the last couple of items here is the shirt or the clothing. So we can maybe put her in a suit, a blazer. Awesome.
And this can be fully customized. You can upload like a texture for the blazer. We of course have some kind of like pre-curated options, but when designing, right, we got to follow what the brand guidelines look like, what they've defined for their brand colors. That's absolutely an option. And then we have background. So again, you can just change the color, or you can upload a specific background if you want the digital person to be in an office or outdoors, and so on.
Very similar to like a Zoom background, similar process there. So that's what it takes to customize your digital person. So a lot of our customers will, spend a lot of time in the Blender tool. They want to make sure their digital person really aligns to their brand guidelines. So for example, you can put a shirt with a logo on it if you want. And then what you would do after that is finalize it, name the project, and deploy. And then you can start having conversations with it. It takes about 30 minutes for it to render.
So yeah, we cruised through that. Again, QR code, scan it, sign up. You could win $50. And I think we're ready for questions.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Let's
Okay.
let's start Q&A. Yeah, and if you could just stand, and when you're done, pass the mic back to me or to the next person, even better.
Thank you for the presentation. So this is a customer-facing feature, right? It can be like a replacement for that little chat pop-up of customer success. Yeah, and if so, does it remember like the history of every user, or does it refresh every time you re-enter the page?
So for kind of privacy and security reasons, it will refresh. You can connect it, so it's possible that it has a memory of past conversations. What you would honestly want to do is gate that behind a login, right? So that my conversation data is secure. It is a possibility. It's just not something for most public-facing websites right now. We see it largely as kind of introductory or gated. Yeah.
Very cool, thank you. Amazing. Two-part question. You are going to probably do non-human characters at some point. Are you going to do animals first, and then what about fantasy creatures, and when?
I feel like creatures is
That's
our
a
most
really good one. Our like
common
school
request.
mascots is really popular as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely on our roadmap. So our platform is supported through Unity, so we're doing a lot of work there. So going forward, so when we went through the Blender tool, you had a confined set of clothing options, accessories. What Unity will do will allow users to actually bring in their own assets. So if you wanted to bring in different hair or skin texture or creatures, you could be able to do that. So that's definitely coming.
Hi. I actually have like 3 questions. Is that okay? Just quickly? Or just maybe pick my best one?
Well, maybe one at a time.
Okay. Have you thought of going into the digital fashion business?
Man, with the right partner, we would definitely be there.
Because gaming is all about that right now.
Right.
Can you ask for any personality? Like, say you put in roguish and charming as keywords.
Absolutely. That is completely up to your imagination. How much the digital person will emote from one to the next is a little bit more subtle, right? You're not going to get much difference if you use a lot of synonyms. But we have a very ornery digital person who likes to argue with you, which is really fun to talk to. He is very different from Nova, who's very charming and engaging.
Nice. One more?
Please.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Could you describe somebody, basically, instead of going through the flow of building what is also essentially, in my mind, a video game character?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool within DNA Studio. Actually, what's the best way to show this? Sorry. Let me go back to my slideshow. So this like digital person's name and digital person role and personality, we see people put in like Reese Witherspoon's personality because it will actually like scrape the internet to kind of define what her personality is. Obviously, imitating people has a whole copyright kind of issue with it. But when you're talking about kind of reflecting personality, it's definitely possible.
Hi, great presentation. I was wondering about the process of integrating this onto a website after you've created your avatar. Are there like instructions on how to do that, or like would you have to dismiss the character before interacting with the website that it's integrated on? Yeah, just implementation. I'm curious how that's done.
Absolutely. We have a web widget functionality right now, which basically is, right, the digital person kind of existing within your website in kind of the bottom right corner. Similarly to a chat bot, it's what it's modeled after. The digital person would exist, and actually their knowledge would permit across the pages. So that is a possibility. We are working with this shift to Unity to have it like fully embedded onto the page, kind of like you see other digital people, rather than this kind of pop-out experience, which is our default right now.
And then like they have their own landing page as well, right?
Right.
You have a full experience. So like Nova, if you go to our website, soulmachines.com, you'll see something that says Talk to Nova, and it'll actually pop up another web page where you can have kind of a larger, fuller conversation with her, as opposed to that widget.
Super cool. Thanks for sharing. It's like The Sims come to life, if this is life. I don't know. The question is, it seems like a big opportunity for people who are making stuff with this is in the richness of the soul or the persona. Right now you have this, what appears to be a single page where and create this whole new life, right? I'd love to play with that. Is there an API, and are there other kinds of ways of sort of making a richer history, character, person, soul?
Yeah, so right now our system is fully integrated, so all your persona definition is going into Digital DNA Studio, things like the voice, right, the personality, which we showed. I think you can absolutely make API calls to make it more rich, but we've yet to have anybody really say that the digital person doesn't have enough personality. There's so much fine tuning you could do. And you know what's really helpful is data. So that's why we have Nova on our website, because we want her to become more personable. Part of that is just like using the data from interactions. So yeah, I would love for you to scan that QR code and sign up and report back what you find, because like all we want to do is learn.
Yeah, and I would love to talk to you afterwards as well, because we get that question a lot, about giving, especially folks that are more technical or developers, giving them that experience of using APIs to create these experiences. So would love to chat after this.
Yeah, so I'd really like to talk a little bit more about Reese Witherspoon. Namely, I want to get your understanding of like current ethical implications. Through imaging, we're having a lot. We're talking.
We lost you on the mic, I think.
I missed most of it, I'm sorry.
Testing. Sorry. Yeah. What I was asking is about the ethical implications behind using data that's free out there. We're talking a lot currently about design and images and attributions and whether or not we should be using open source or not. I'd like to get your impression of where the market currently is, your company's stance, and where do you think that's headed for things that are not trademarkable or copyrightable?
That's a very loaded question. I'm not sure I would be like the perfect person to answer it company-wide. What I would say is we do make digital celebrities. So if you go to our website, we have like digital Jack Nicklaus, we have Mark Twain. We actually work with those celebrities for the right to duplicate their images. We don't just kind of create deep fakes or imitations of individuals right now for copyright and like legal ethical reasons. As far as where it's going, we get a ton of requests on a regular basis to be able to scan in your own image, other people's images, etc., and autonomously animate them. I don't know if that's a direction we will go.
It's not.
You could maybe ask our CEO more, but yeah. So yeah, we try to tread the line of being very respectful. I think persona is very different than like image and likeness, but it is definitely a fine line.
Hi there. 2 questions. Have you thought about integrating like virtual reality for like Meta or the Apple Vision Pro? and whatever else they release. And then as this technology gets better, do you still encourage people to have friends in real life?
No friends in real life, obviously. That's just too much.
Yeah, our digital people are actually designed to work in virtual worlds. You know, we did that especially like when the metaverse was, you know, the thing. And so you can use them in virtual worlds, and we haven't had that use case yet, but it's possible.
And yes, real friends, guys, because like connection's super important, which I think we all know since we're all here.
Another application question, can you do 3D modeling with it?
Ooh. Not right now.
Not right now. Could you expound on like what you're...
You know, we have 3D printer, we can do all
Right.
kind of things. So if we want to develop our own chess game, or, you know, more like at home, homemaker, but using this to
Yeah,
create
like a
our own.
hologram.
Yeah, we do. We actually can integrate, and we have seen some of our partners do this, digital people into a hologram as a kind of more 3D experience. In addition to like kind of outside of the digital experience on like a website or your phone, we also have customers like some of our financial services customers, banks, who are using them in kiosk as well. So we are exploring, you know, kind of other methods of deployment and delivery.
Okay, but not yet 3D printing like.
Not yet,
Yeah.
not yet, not yet.
Okay, next.
So many questions.
When we do, though, we really won't need friends, will we? Any other questions from the audience? Okay, I've got a question. What do you think what are the most successful use cases of this sort of technology, the digital avatar, that you've seen so far?
Gosh. Our digital celebrities are pretty interesting. Again, like Lana said, we work with them. We work with their estate, and they want us to create, you know, these digital people of their likeness, like Mark Twain or Carmelo Anthony as an example. And the reason is one is for fan engagement. So our digital people, I didn't mention this, they can talk multiple languages. So if you're like a Carmelo Anthony and you want to reach your fan base in Japan or, you know, China, right, you're able to do that, and those fans are actually able to talk to Carmelo Anthony in their language. So those have been really, really interesting. Mark Twain was interesting when we launched him too. Do you guys know who that is? The K-pop star who has a crazy fan base. When we launched him, we had people talking to Mark Twain for like 20 hours at a time, which was like really, it was kind of cool and weird, right, Lana?
Yeah.
And so those have been interesting. From a more kind of commercial enterprise perspective, they're not as cool, but we do have some customers who use digital people on their website, like Lana said, widgets to help people make purchasing decisions. So if they want to, example, decide between a premium insurance plan or a regular insurance plan, they can talk to a digital person and to help them make that decision. So those have been really successful as well. And the WHO example I mentioned was really interesting. The WHO is seeing a scarcity in public health workers. And so Sarah, who's going to be launched next week, they're really excited about it because they're able to actually reach a lot of people. Sarah can talk 10 languages. And so think about the reach in terms of helping them, with their health questions, tobacco questions about, how do you stop smoking, questions about healthy diet, healthy lifestyle. And so the healthcare use cases have been really interesting and successful as well.
Any use cases that have fallen flat, whether it's at Soul Machines or maybe industry-wide, anything that's not yet production ready that you can comment on?
I think we are seeing a lot of traction in the healthcare space, right? Because, again, for the reasons Veronica said, but it is a really hard space to kind of build up to because there's so much privacy in data. And so I wouldn't say they're falling short. They're much bigger, longer projects with more of a concern on like user experience, right, than if you're going to like a website and trying to buy a car and talk to a digital person. So I would say kind of navigating the ethics and legality there is probably the biggest task ahead of us.
Makes sense. Okay, let's give Veronica and Lana a round of applause. And Veronica and Lana will be here during networking, so that's coming right up. So if there's any more questions about soul machines, by all means, ask then. About to introduce our last presenter of the evening, who is Jeff, but we need to reset the stage, which will take us approximately 60 seconds. So bear with us here and we'll get going. Okay, everyone, help me welcome Jeff Carino. Jeff is president of Jeff Carino Design and Branding. Jeff is also the co-curator of Monet. The title of Jeff's talk is Production Ready Strategies for Achieving Precision with Midjourney. So without further delay, here is Jeff.
There we go. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. It's really great to be here. So my name is Jeff. I'm the president of Carino and Partners. I'm also the co-creator of the Museum of Non-Existing Things, also known as Monet. You'll learn a little bit more about that in a bit. I was also one of the founding partners of Individual, which is a personal branding agency. And I'm currently teaching a class in AI for designers at the Academy of Art University. I recently had the privilege of lecturing at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and my work was recently shown at the BMW Foundation and the Italian Innovation and Culture Hub here in San Francisco. So, question. You know, when I go to these things and I meet people who are working in AI, you know, I guess there's a lot of natural questions, and a lot of them are centered around, you know, what are your favorite prompts, or what are the platforms you're using, and you know, what are the tips and tricks that you're learning about recently? And those are all really good questions, but there's another really important question that I like to ask people. And the question is, what got you into AI? What motivates you? And like, what is your animating factor? Because there's a lot of people come into this and they have a lot of different reasons. And I've gotten a lot of really amazing answers to this question. And I could probably fill another talk just about that question alone with the answers I've gotten. But, you know, I'm not really here to talk about those people. Maybe someday I will make a talk about that. But I'm here to talk about my own personal journey and my own AI story and how I got here and why I'm talking to all of you. Well, okay, it's not just one story. I'm actually here to tell you about 4 stories. It's going to be a story about love. We're going to talk about a story of inspiration, a story of persuasion, and one of fulfillment. Let's talk about the story of love, which actually all started as a joke. And the joke was this. This was one of the first images I ever created in Midjourney, and the prompt wasn't even fully mine. I actually took it off the public forums and I copied it and made it my own and added a few things in, and I created this image. And I don't know what to say, except I kind of just fell in love. Not with the Yeti and not with the man there, but I fell in love with the platform. I fell in love with the capacity to tell stories, which is really the magic of this medium. And so I just dived in and I couldn't get enough of it. And so I started creating more and more images like this. And so then I wanted to share this, and I wanted people to experience the same sense of wonder and magic that I had experienced when I first prompted that image. And so I posted these to Facebook. But I didn't just post them, I told a story. And that story was that I had been digging through my great-great-grandfather's effects and his belongings, and I found a box of old photographs. And in that box was these, and they were musty, and they were old and stinky and dirty. And so I said on Facebook, look, I'm probably just going to throw these all away, but before I do, I just want to share them with you. And people flipped out, and they DM'd me, and they said, no, please don't throw those away. You know, send them to me, I'll keep them. And people ask, well, which one of those guys is your grandfather? And like, what? The people were so confused. And I guess I really enjoyed that reaction, so I did more. You know, I told people I'd been to New York, and that, you know, people seemed to be dressing even more adventurous than I remembered them. And people messaged me and said, oh my gosh, what part of New York are you in? And was it Fashion Week? And so I just kept doing that. And by this time, my friends were all on to me. They knew that none of this was real, but I loved it, and I couldn't stop. And so I kept doing even more. And these examples here are my interpretation of what San Francisco Victorians would look like by some of my favorite architects, like Zaha Hadid and Shigeru Ban. So much fun. By this time, I was fully addicted to this technology. So, but the real question then is, by this time, I had generated tens of thousands of images. At this point, I'm up to 60 or 70,000 images on Midjourney alone. I don't even know about the other platforms. So I didn't know what to do with all of these. I knew I couldn't keep putting them in Facebook because I would just start to annoy all my friends. And I guess I could have used Instagram, but that just seemed so done. And so I decided what I would do with all my images is I would build a museum. Well, not a real museum, a virtual museum, an online museum, and I call it the Museum of Non-Existing Things, or Monet. It's a fake museum that pretends to be a real museum, and if you go there, you'll look that it acts as if it's got visiting hours, and it has all sorts of different galleries inside that you can visit. It's got stories in there to tell about different kinds of people and places. Some of those stories are pretty complex, and they go really in depth in talking about fake histories of fake things that never actually existed. Some of the stories are actually somewhat political, talking about the rise of China as a cultural and military superpower. And some of the stories are a cultural statement about the United States and where we are as a country. So it really just became this place for me to explore all sorts of different thoughts and ideas about what I wanted to do. And also on top of it, there's a gift shop where you can't actually buy anything. You can't, unfortunately, get this Frida Kahlo action figure. I'm sorry to say, everybody wants it. Or the Van Gogh with the Velcro ear that can be detached. So I have a lot of fun with this, and it is a really good time. Well, somebody saw that. In fact, the person who saw that was the director of the AI department, the new AI department at the Academy of Art University. His name is Ross Patrick, and he actually spoke here a couple of months ago. And he saw what I did on the Monet and asked me if I wanted to teach a course at the Academy of Art. And I thought, why not? I mean, it sounds absolutely fascinating. It's a new thing. Nobody's teaching it yet, so this is very exciting. But I also heard from some of the other teachers that some of the students were signing up just because they thought it would be an easy grade, or they were just scared of falling behind, and so they thought they'd take it, not because they really wanted to, because they thought they had to. And I didn't want to teach that course. And I didn't want to teach a course that was just about good prompting. I wanted to inspire them. I wanted these kids to fall in love with this technology and this platform the way I had, and to be excited by it. So I created a number of different teaching tools that would allow them, I thought, to get them really, really exciting. So there was a whole bunch of them. And the class is not over. I'm only midway through, by the way, so I'm still inventing these tools. But one of the first tools I thought would be fairly easy for the kids to learn was something I'm calling the booze cruise. And that is simply creating a whole bunch of bottles of wine and of distilled spirits. And the catch is that I want them to be interesting, not just a bottle with a label on it, but something different, like this bottle of something called an Albarino wine, which is a ceramic container dipped into glaze most of the way. It's different, it's unique, it feels human, it's got this wabi-sabi sort of flavor to it. Or this organic California gin called Sequoia, half made out of a branch of wood and half made out of glass. Is this possible? Maybe not, I have no idea. But the idea for the students is you now have license to go beyond what's possible and start to explore ideas without having concern for your ability to execute them. And this is new, and this is very exciting. How about this bottle, which is fairly conventional in form, except for this twist running through the entire body of it? Or this bottle of champagne called Past and Present is the made-up name, that actually has an hourglass blown into the bottle that has filled with pink sand that has the sand traveling from one chamber to the next. Or how about this bottle of premium Swedish vodka that it really has this sort of like wabi-sabi imperfect aspect to it, and this lovely blue glaze, and then a wooden stopper. I wanted to push some ideas about the form factor when looking at this bottle of tequila here that incorporates the idea of a Day of the Dead skull into it, but in a new and unexpected way. Or this bottle of Prisoner gin. This is a caged apple gin, I call it. It is a infused apple gin, but there is an apple stuck inside and seemingly impossible. How did it get in there? Again, these things may not be plausible, they may not even make sense, but they are exercises in pure imagination without regard to execution. And then this last one, a honey-infused mezcal, where the challenge was, okay, this is honey, so let's avoid some of the stereotypes or the easy low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that you might use to express a honey product. And so not doing a beehive or a bee or something, but something reminiscent of it that might look sort of like it reflects the concept of a beehive, and then with the wooden stopper that looks like a honey dipper as well. Well, moving on, this was my first actual client. So working with these images here was very helpful as a teaching tool, but this is where the rubber really hits the road with an actual client. I'm calling it Redacted Corporation. That's not the real name, but this project is happening currently right now. I have been given permission to show you the development work, but I've been asked not to show the name of the client or the logo. That's not their logo. So for convenience, we're going to call them Redacted Corporation, and this is a story of persuasion. So the challenge was, how do we persuade the client to invest in a new image library? This is a big multinational corporation that operates in many countries in West Africa. And they said, well, our image library looks great. It's just fine. But their images look like this. They're not great. They're not just fine. They're mediocre. And more importantly, they didn't reflect the new positioning that we created for them. Our idea and what we felt made this company so different was that they had this passion for Africa, this forward-looking vision, and everything they did was informed by this passion and this excitement for the continent. So we created a positioning that we call For the Love of Africa. And the images we created were like this. these beautiful women on the streets of a town in Africa wearing these traditional garments. Or these cute young brothers laughing in church. This nice young couple riding a motorcycle through the streets of Nairobi. This good-looking couple of guys working at a gas factory. This group of young students laughing and smiling with each other. Or this nice young teacher in her classroom. Or this beautiful, gorgeous baby. Well, these images were both a terrific failure and also a big success. Why were they a failure? They were a failure because the client told us that they're not usable. They were concerned that people would look at these and recognize that the patterns were not authentically African. They might look at these people and say, well, those people are not Angolan. And so they said, we can't use these. So they were a failure. But they were a success because the client saw this collection of images and said, we love these. These really, really need to represent our brand, and so we want to commission a photo shoot for all of these images where we will use these as a shot list and recreate them in country with a real photographer. So I consider that a win-win-win. We convinced them that they needed to do the shot, and some photographer gets to make money and do his or her job, as same with some the models and every other person who'll be involved in the photo shoot. So that's a huge victory. This next story is about a company called Authorium, and it's a story of fulfillment. And in some ways, it's the exact opposite of the last story. So Authorium does government document process automation. And the challenge with them was they wanted a huge image library for their new brand identity. And they knew what they didn't want. They absolutely did not want this. Corporate Memphis. Now, some of you have done this. I have done this. And you know what? It's fine. It had its time and its place in the brand identity world. It's probably over now. And in any case, for this client, it was definitely over because they knew they absolutely did not want this. So what did they want? They absolutely were clear that they wanted photography. And this is not going to blow any minds in this room. They didn't have the budget. So they asked us, can we do this in AI? Well, I had never really done this before. The last one was really kind of like an ideation thing, and so they were saying, no, we don't want to create ideas. We want this to be the final delivery, the actual images that we are going to use. Well, that has some repercussions for it, and some of them are technical, and some of them are ethical and legal. And I informed them about all those issues and what they would entail. And if somebody wants to kind of talk about those in the Q&A period, there's a lot to unpack there. But in addition to those issues, there was also an aesthetic challenge, and it's not the one you're probably thinking it was. The aesthetic challenge in this case was that government workers and their work environments, well, they're not cool, young, or sexy. Those are the client's words. So if there's any government workers here, or if you have any government workers in your family, I apologize. That's the client's words. Not cool, young, or sexy. But Midjourney, as you know, has a built-in bias. And you know what it is already. It's cool, young, and sexy. Well, you know, I mean, even this guy here on the right, I guess that's sort of like a sexy version of George Lucas. I mean, he may not be that young, but he is certainly attractive, and this is Midjourney's built-in bias. So, the whole notion of this project was defeating sexy. How can we move on beyond that? And, well, we worked, and it was quite a big challenge. It was a bigger challenge than I expected, getting beyond cool, young, and sexy. But I can say I'm declaring victory. Mission accomplished. I am kidding a little bit. This guy was not a part of the final set delivered to the client. But this guy was, and she was too. And so were they. And so, I don't know, when you see this up on the screen, just a little bit of a disclaimer, I want to say that these images were generated already 2 or 3 months ago. And so at that time, they were perfect. But you may look at these images now, and you may see some of the flaws in here. That's the nature of the beast. We're moving through here, and things that looked absolutely unassailable like a couple months ago, you can kind of see the flaws now. But if we were to redo them again today, I think these would look a little bit different. But that said, they're pretty good, especially given what we needed to do, which I'll explain a little bit more here. This is a problem image right here. Why is it a problem? Well, partly his fingers look a little weird, but that's not the problem. The problem is the client saw this and looked at the background, which I hadn't really noticed much myself, and said, well, it looks like a nice upscale hotel lobby. That's not a government office at all. And so we had to work in order to make it look more boring. These are problem images because, well, I don't even know what to say about these or how to explain them, but they are weird. And we had to work through some of these as well. But one of the things we discovered is we had to overcompensate. So if you look at this woman, she's not a bad-looking woman. I could even say she's kind of a nice-looking woman. But in order to get a person who just looks like a normal person, we had to overcompensate and use words like unattractive. I don't think that's an unattractive woman, but we still had to use that just to overcome the bias and pull Midjourney towards the center. Same thing with this guy. This man looks like he's probably in his late 40s, but I had to prompt for a man in his 60s or 70s just to overcome the youth bias and pull him towards the center. Now, like I said, these images were done a couple of months ago, and I thought by now, like maybe Midjourney had overcome these biases built in for youth, beauty, and such. Well, I tested this again the day before yesterday, and I found that some of these things were still the case, so it hasn't changed that much. So one of the things that we discovered in this project is that you have to be really, really willing to create a lot of images to get a set. We delivered a set of, I think, 35 images to the client, but generated many, many hundreds. I think a ratio of 50-1. In other words, one image you create 50 you hate, or that are just not usable at all, is a pretty good ratio. I would even say 100-1 is not an unreasonable ratio. It is worth noting that all of this is changing. Just 2 weeks ago, I think we got the style reference and the character reference elements built in and released in Midjourney, and that's changing a lot of things. And if anybody's familiar with character reference and style reference, you'll know that it's a big step forward. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So if I were to do all of these images for this library again, I think I would do things differently today, of course. But what still stands true no matter what, and I think this will remain true for some time, is that if you're not already doing it, remember that success with AI requires a near obsessive level of curiosity about the technology in order to make it work in your favor. And most of all, the theme I want to leave you with is if you want to succeed at this, if you want to do something different and usable and good, is you have to have fun. You have to fall in love with it and really, really just enjoy this, because if you think of it as a task or a job, it's never really going to work. So you have to just really get in there and use it and enjoy it and play with it like the world's most incredible toy that it actually is. And that's it. Thank you so much. Questions?
Thanks a lot, Jeff. How about some questions from the audience? All right. If you guys could just help me pass this mic, I'd appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Hey there.
Hi.
Those images are amazing.
Thank you.
How long would it take for you to dial in on an image like that? Can you just talk about time? Because they look so effortless, but I'm sure there's a lot of effort.
Oh my
into
gosh, that is the nicest thing that a person could say. That the word that you just chose there, effortless, is incredible, because they were not effortless. They were highly effortful. That said, I would almost like to say, I would like to compare it to what that would be like actually, the effort involved in shooting that. And let's just be clear, I share some of the ethical concerns that we all do about like job loss and such. I'm less concerned on the last one that you looked at because the client just never would have done it. They just would not have done it. They would have used stock photography, I suppose, or something like that, right? But that took about 2 weeks, I think. That was 2 weeks worth of effort, and at first there was a lot of false starts because we kept getting, again, people were just too attractive, too young, and we kept going back, and every time we thought we'd gotten it, they'd say, nope, still too young, still too pretty, the background still looked like too nice of a place. And so it took 2 weeks to get to that point where we could properly prompt consistently and get the images that you saw there.
Any other questions for Jeff from the audience? Oh, thanks.
First of all, excellent presentation,
Thank
and I
you.
love the images. You did a fabulous job. You mentioned on all of them that I have 2 parts question. You mentioned on all of them that there is Midjourney and Photoshop.
Yeah.
So what % are you getting the quality of the images that you have from Midjourney, and what % are you doing major tweaks in Photoshop?
Okay, that is such a good question. So even that answer requires a couple of different things. I would say that I try my best to make sure to get as high quality an image in Midjourney or GPT-4 as possible. And that includes things like, when you see something's wrong with the image, especially hands, I don't just give up on it, and I certainly don't try to fix it in Photoshop. I try to fix it with I don't even know what the tool is called, the little lasso tool, the area select tool. And you select that tool and you re-roll again and again and again until you get it right. Oftentimes, if it's mission critical, I'll just tell it no hands showing. I will actually prompt for that just to eliminate that possibility. So that's the first part of it. But then, I'm never satisfied with things coming right out of Midjourney, so I almost always use Photoshop for 2 reasons. Number one, I'm not satisfied and I want it to be better. The second thing is I'm trying to make a habit of always doing something, and that is I could do another talk on this. It's all about the legality of it. Anything coming out of Midjourney is technically not copyrightable, right? But if you affect the work and you change it in some sort of significant way, then it is copyrightable. It's yours then, and you can use it. So what is that line between significantly changed enough to be copyrightable? Well, that's no strong, bright line. That's hard to know. But I try to make a habit of at least touching everything in Photoshop a little bit so that I'm always at least in some way making it mine.
That was going to be my second question, because you mentioned that about the technical, ethical, and legal. So that hits that. And you've talked about the ethical as well. Is it just about the taking away of jobs, the ethics aspect of it?
Well, so that's a bit of a can of worms. The ethical aspect of course, like the only truly ethical AI that you can use right now for generative AI for images is Firefly, right? I personally don't love the images coming out of Firefly right now, and so I tend to stick to Midjourney. But am I 100% comfortable with that? No, because I don't know, and there's no way to know who you're drawing from, And this is a very strange thing, to know that you might be stealing from somebody, but not knowing who or how. I don't think this has ever been a phenomenon that, was ever the case before. Even, when MP4s came out in the 90s, you knew who you were stealing from. Now we don't know. And so this is a real ethical dilemma. And that's why I am, and we all are, I think, rooting for Firefly. We're rooting for Adobe's model, because that's what I would prefer to use.
A repeat of a question I think Claire got, which was, thank you so much for sharing the work and the work product, and it's wonderful and magical.
Thank you.
Can you give us any hint about your practice? Do you have style guides, or how are you recording this so that you don't have to do so much of the intensive over and over and over and over?
Well, that's a good question. So, you know, I don't really have any sort of like workflow. I certainly don't have any diagram or something like that. I know how I work, and it's always changing because the technology is always changing. But for example, and I don't know how this is going to work out yet. So normally what you would do when you finish a whole series of images for a client, whether photography is, you would turn over that set to them, and that would be that, right? The client asked me, they said, well, can you give us your prompts, you know, so that if we need more, we can do them. Well, that would have been really impractical because like it's a lot of prompts, and also just because I give you my prompts, you're not going to produce the same results. You can take my prompts and put them in Midjourney and you'll get completely different results. So what I did is I do this for all my clients, before I start, I create a private server specifically for that client on Midjourney. And also, I also, this is important, I use the highest level subscription to Midjourney because then my prompts are private. And anything I do for client work absolutely must be private. It can't be on the public server. And so I create a private server for each client, and then when I'm done with it, I turn over the server to them. So I think that's going to work. I don't know yet. It's early days.
Okay. It has to be the fastest question ever asked and the fastest answer.
Fastest answer, I promise.
So at the beginning you said no more corporate Memphis, we're done. So, and I love your work. I'm saying, do you think also this is a trend and you know we are done with it, or is there a way to always make it different? You know, because there is a feeling of it, and you know, you kind of recognize it. It's harder and harder, but there's a feeling.
I mean, could you rephrase your question? I'm not sure.
It's more a statement, or how can we still be creative and not be bored about the style?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I would say, you know, in the case of the government automate, you know, that one, the client specifically, and I'm not kidding, specifically asked for boring images. That's the word they use. But you know, the one that I did for Africa, I think is significantly more exciting, and there's a lot of room for like variation in there. So it really depends on the client.
Okay, let's give Jeff a round of applause. Thanks very much, Jeff. Really appreciate it. And my slides are frozen. We're back. Okay. If you had a good time tonight, please mention you're here on Twitter or LinkedIn. We'd appreciate it. Yeah, and sign up for our next event. If you enjoyed this event and you want to find out more, just go to our meetup page. We have at least the next, 5 events posted with speakers. So take a look. So for example, we'll be doing this again in exactly 4 weeks. AI for designers, there's 3 speakers. Next week we're doing AI for developers. There's 3 speakers there. Check out the developer topics, see if they're relatable or something you'd be interested in. And certainly there's a lot of overlap with design and marketing. So take a look at marketing on April 17th. Okay, so those are all on the meetup page. And what else? Yeah, one final reminder. If you're interested in this sponsorship sales position, we'd love to chat with you. Or if you know someone who is, please chat with me or get in touch directly with Eileen. And that's Eileen's email right there, eileen@bemyapp.com. So yeah, let us know. And let's start open mic. We have a few minutes for open mic. The idea is you just come up immediately, no delay, don't be shy, and we make the best use of time. And this camera right here isn't working today. It's actually the cable. So face the audience and LinkedIn will see you too.
Okay. Thank you, Jackson, for the event. And real quick, so my name's Dima, I'm a founder, and I'm actually looking for people, for users, early users in UX, other people connected with UX here. Yep. So I'm actually building a tool called UserWatch. It's a UX research platform. And the unique thing that it lets you do is to analyze the process of analyzing user behavior on your website. So to be more specific, it automates the process of binge watching user session recordings in tools like Hotjar. Other people who know tools like Hotjar here? I would be really, really happy to talk to you, to get your feedback, and potentially create a tool that you wouldn't have to spend time on UX research at all. We just launched our second MVP, so I would be happy to demo it to you, and anyone who's working with Hotjar. My name's Dima, really happy talking to you. Thank you, Jackson, and AI user group team.
Thanks, Dima. Thanks very much. Anyone else for an open mic announcement? Just a good way to kick off networking. If you're too shy this time, just come up anyways, like so.
This goes out to everyone, I guess. Just opportunity to network. If you're working on something to improve entrepreneurs, if you're a presenter here, check out michaelbernoff.com/better. If you can't make the presentation, just check out Michael Bernoff and link them up. You won't be disappointed. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. Anyone else for an open mic announcement? Some examples are job openings, product announcements, startup ideas, consulting opportunities, or just simply introducing yourself to start networking. Anyone else? Okay, so if you're too shy this time, just think about it. You come up next time. We do this every single time by request, okay? This is every single time. So you just queue up right here, and we'll keep the continuity going. Yeah, no announcement to anything. Just make your announcement. It's fine. So you designers can be shy. Well, we can't hear you without the mic, so you got to come up. Okay, one final announcement, and then we'll get going. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, we just soft launched something called Hello Wonder. If you go on the App Store, Hello Wonder, 2 words, it's also hellowonder.ai. And it's a safe internet for kids and families.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, perfect example. Okay, so next time, think about it. We'll do it every single time. So yeah, and thank you, Dima, as well. And that's it. Thanks so much for attending. There's my email, and we'll see you next time. Let's enjoy some pizza, do some networking, and thanks very much.